Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for tuning into the newest episode of Uncovering the Underground Radio podcast show, brought to you by my companies Brutal Business Entertainment and Celestial Oddities Radio. As always, I'll be your host on this encapsulating and enthralling journey into underground entertainment. I am Reverend Frater Crow, and I want to thank you for listening in tonight. Whether listening live, streaming after the fact, or you've downloaded this to your device for on the go, any which of the three is absolutely fine, and we want to thank you for your patronage and support. But make sure you click the like, share, and follow button on whatever platform you are listening to us from, whether it be iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Deezer, Spreaker, CastBox, Google, Amazon, or anything in between. We air across absolutely everything, so listen where you feel comfortable. But by clicking those buttons, it moves us up the podcast community rankings, allows more people to discover the show, keeps you in the loop with new episodes as they air, and gives you unfiltered access to our past archives. And there's something for absolutely everyone who's a fan of underground entertainment. Whether it be this show that brings you music, modeling, stars of the big screen, comedy, oddities, and everything in between, or it's one of our other shows like Knights of the Nephilim podcast centered around esoteric doctrine, occult, philosophy, and ceremonial ritual magic, or it be our last show, Celestial Oddities Paranormal Guys podcast, where it centers around supernatural and paranormal phenomena. We have a little bit of everything for a little bit of everyone. So feel free to jump back and check out any of our other shows, any of our other episodes, as tonight we are on Season 2, Episode 15 of Uncovering the Underground. And not only is this the 15th episode of Season 2, but this is actually Episode 80 of Uncovering the Underground as a whole, and we're very excited to bring that to you this evening. Now, we bring you a show each and every Thursday night from 8:30 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as I said, across all platforms. But what I would say is if you want to not only listen to the show, but you would also like to engage in the show as well, the way to do that is through our hosting site. That is Spreaker.com, Spreaker, so like speaker with an R in there. You can look them up through Spreaker.com or through the Spreaker app on the app market. It allows you to not only listen to the show, but does allow you to actually comment through an instant messenger feature during the show to leave feedback, just randomly chat with us, or ask our guests each and every week questions that I will read out on the air. So if you're listening out there and want to engage, by all means, we certainly advise it and would love to hear you and what it is that you want to ask our guests this evening. So feel free to jump on. If there's anything you want to see us do differently with the show, anybody you want to see us have on the show, any suggestions whatsoever, you can drop me a line at celestialoddities@gmail.com. Again, that is celestialoddities@gmail.com. You can send it to the Frater Crow Facebook page, the Uncovering the Underground Radio group page on Facebook. I will answer any one of those platforms, make sure I get back to you in a timely manner, and I always appreciate each and every one of your feedback, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. Now, tonight's guest is, a band that I found and loved their sound. Very true metal, and their bio will give you a little bit of a taste of what we're going to jump into this evening. So I'm very excited to have them on in general. But I'm also very excited because, kind of sad and excited, because they will be the last metal band of Season 2. We've had a lot of different styles of metal over the 15 episodes we've had so far this season. But tonight we finish out with the metal bands, and we kind of move into some different types of music. We have a comedian coming up. We have the Renaissance Rock Orchestra coming up. We are moving in a different direction, and then next season we'll be back with plenty of metal, plenty of death metal, so don't worry. Now, tonight's guest, as I've talked about, is Airacobra, and let me tell you a little bit about these guys. Heavy metal. Some people say heavy metal thrives in the Midwest due to the working class values and the need for an outlet for energy after the grind. Their mission statement and sentiment is simple: genuine, authentic metal from the heart of metal, the Midwest. They have been a band for some time and have cultivated a reputation for being a high-energy, entertaining live experience while writing authentic metal that not only is aggressive and powerful, but also catchy and melodic. Airacobra is a trip to the past while simultaneously being a trip into the future of heavy metal. So as always, ladies and gentlemen, spark up your joints, crack open some beers, kick up your feet, and lend me your ears as we dig in together with Midwestern Steel band, Airacobra. How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Doing well, man. That was a hell of an intro.
Hey,
Yeah,
thank you.
I love that. That was great.
Hey, I try to do what I can do, and when I have great bands like yourselves, it makes it easy. So thank you for coming on the show tonight. Let me pick your guys' brains and find out a little bit about who you are individually, as a group, what you guys have done, what you still have in store, and certainly introduce the listeners out there to what it is that you guys do, as music, which I love. So, once again, thank you. And I always start the shows very traditionally each and every time, and then I kind of veer off from there into my own form of interviews. But I would like to start out, and any of the three of you can take it, and I will, pick between the three of you throughout the night for different questions, but I don't know which of the three of you want to start and how it is you guys really got started. What was the beginning roots that formed, what it is now.
TJ, that's your.
Sure. No, I think everybody in this group, like how everybody starts out when you're younger, you're a teenager, you're really passionate about music, and you kind of have your 3 or 4 bands in the local area. At least that's how it was around here. So we all were in other bands that were friendly with each other, and we all kind of knew each other. But as you age, you get a little bit older, and folks start to have kids, and they start to do all that stuff, which more power to them. But that's not what the people that in this band were about. We were about playing rock and roll and making music something that we were going to do as a career, and because it was super important for us to do that. Like, I don't know, it's just what's inside of me. I can't stop it, and I think everybody else in this group's the same way. So as those bands kind of went by the wayside, we kind of looked around and said, well, hey, you're the best drummer in the local scene, and Dusty said, oh, you're welcome, Zach. I love it. Hey, Dusty's like one of the most entertaining frontmen. I remember in the band that I was in, going and watching a show Dusty was playing and saying, my God, because I was in like a rock and roll band, like Kiss and like Aerosmith, and I thought to myself, if that kid could sing, I would steal him from this band. And then now look at him. Now he's singing his ass off. So awesome. So Dusty, awesome. We're doing that. And then obviously I was super serious. So we all got together and, decided that let's play some metal. Let's put all of our powers combined. So, early on there was some different lineups and stuff, and those guys all put their asses on the line, and we're super passionate too, but I mean, this band's just soldiered on. And to me, this lineup is the quintessential lineup. It's the lineup we're taking forward to the future. And for my money, it's the first lineup of this band, because it's what the masses are going to hear and know as Airacobra. So really just kind of that's the story. We all just kind of came from different areas and different backgrounds and different styles of music. And at first we got together and looked at each other and said, how the hell is this going to work? How are we going to shove hardcore and punk and rock and roll and, glam and all this shit? How's it going to work? And just kind of threw it at the wall. And that's why I think when we talk about authenticity, it's a unique sound because there's so many different things colliding. So, I mean, that's pretty much the story, though. We got together and just decided we're the folks that are going to carry this flag into the next battle, and we're going to be the people that walk out of this scene, doing what we set out to do.
Well, and I think it is very reminiscent in your guys' look and sound, because I don't know what you guys were prior to what you are now, because I only discovered the modern Airacobra. But as soon as I seen the look, the picture that I used as the default for the events page and for tonight's episode caught my attention when I looked at it. I'm like, oh, that's some old school badass metal look right there. And I clicked on the page sometimes, and I say this a lot of my episodes, there has to be something about the bands that come onto my show that catch my attention, or obviously they wouldn't have caught my attention. And there's always something, whether it be the look, the sound, the artwork on the album, whatever it might be. And when I looked at that picture that I used, I seen you guys holding the chains, you're in the leather, you're biting the chain, and I'm like, all right, these dude, that reminded me of like some old school like Scorpion / Dio look, and I'm like, okay, and I clicked on them. I'm like, don't let me down, guys, and I clicked play, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, these guys aren't letting me down for real, because you don't hear a lot of this sounding metal in the current scene with the right sound. You see the image, the sound doesn't match. They have the sound, the image is dropped. You have to have that perfect culmination, and you guys have that. And I really liked that. So kudos to you for bringing authentic metal feel, as you put it, kind of a glimpse into the past, but while also staring into the crystal ball of the future.
Right.
Oh,
yeah, dude, that's what it's all about. And the look and all that stuff kind of came from Dust's brain. So I'll let Dusty, if you want to kind of go on that, because I know that's your brainchild, dude. You're all about that.
Oh yeah, that's like you nailed it right on the head. I think that's my biggest pet peeve. A look not matching the sound, and you could argue to your face is blue. In heavy metal, image is important. It is all the bands that I've enjoyed growing up. It was always important to those guys. So why wouldn't it be important to us? And I just want. It's like you wake up, you get dressed. I put my polo shirt on for my day job, which I wish was Airacobra, but unfortunately. But side point, you tuck your polo shirt in, you go to work, and you get the job done. It's no different with Airacobra. We, I think, putting the leather and the spikes on and putting the paint on our face, it's almost tribal for us, and it's almost, if not playing the show itself, just putting that on before we step on stage is so rewarding and feels so good, if you know what I mean.
When I seen it, I thought two things came to mind. Well, at least two hopes came to mind. I'm like, all right, so I'm either going to click on these guys if they come through for me. I'm going to click on this page, and they're either going to come with some old school badass metal, or they better bring some really awesome black metal. Because I wasn't sure which direction it was going to go in. I'm like, they got the spikes, they got the leather. Either we're about to hear some really old school metal, or we're about to hear some really wild, dark stuff. And I was actually very excited to see that it was the first. There's a lot of black metal bands that I come across, and I'm not a huge black metal fan. There are certain bands that'll stand out that I'm like, man, they're great. A lot of it, they have the look, they don't have the sound, like I said, or at least to me. I'm not just a huge fan of that genre. It has to really stick out to me. But even lesser do I see, like I said, the bands that still bring an authentic metal sound while being unique in themselves, not trying to be an exact carbon copy of another band from the past, where they are doing authentic metal with their feel to it. And like I said, you guys did that, so that's great to hear, that happened. Now, I know that you said, TJ, that when you guys started, that you guys weren't all necessarily doing the same style of music and kind of came from different backgrounds. Now, I'm going to jump actually to Zach on this one. Zach, can you tell me, where did you come from as a drummer? What style were you playing as a drummer?
Well, let's see. Definitely Tommy Lee started it all for me. And then, after that, I got into stuff like Rush, Dream Theater, and, after that, stuff like Slipknot. Then I got into, like, Killswitch Engage, Lamb of God, Pantera, Cannibal Corpse, stuff like that. So it's kind of all over the map as far as, like, metal stuff goes.
So you went from Motley Crue to Cannibal Corpse. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Which, certainly I'm a fan of all those as well. So I like to hear the progression and the being vast, because that's another thing that I think happens to a lot of musicians is they play a certain sound, but that is also what they listen to solely. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But I love when I hear someone who, plays in a band and then they're like, like you guys, it's not reminiscent of Cannibal Corpse in any sense, but I love when I hear someone say like, oh yeah, I'm a huge Cannibal Corpse fan. And I'm like, oh wow, you just don't see that in your music. And that's the point, is you have influences that don't necessarily have to bleed into your sound. Because a lot of people just stay to their one sound. Like I play metalcore and I just listen to Killswitch and As I Lay Dying. Well, that's nice, but should probably branch out a little bit. It'll influence you in ways you don't realize into your music. So glad to hear that that's the case.
Yeah.
Now, TJ, I'm going to jump to you for a moment because, I'm a guitarist. I have been for many, many years, and I always admire other great guitar. I love the guitar work on the album. I love the whole album, but, the guitar work on the album is phenomenal. So kudos to you on that. For yourself, what was your main background? When you started out, were you self-taught? Were you going, and getting classically taught? What's your spiel on the guitar?
Oh Lord, no! I always loved guitar, and it all started with me with Kiss. That's the main thing. I can remember. I always tell the funny story to younger bands or anybody that'll listen to me. Like I remember I went to the record store and there was a Kiss VHS tape. I had to beg my grandmother to let me buy it because I wanted to see Kiss in action. There wasn't YouTube, there wasn't DVDs, there wasn't any of this stuff. And the tape I got had like a good 15-second clip of Makeup Kiss. And that was it for me. It was watching Ace Frehley and seeing just how he moved and how he played and how that little 15-second clip, it packed everything in for me. And it made me say, this is what I want to do. Seeing Gene and Paul and Peter up there doing it, but there was something about Ace. So from early on, I had a guitar and I would practice my moves at the very least, make sure I look cool. But I didn't actually start playing until I was 12 or so. And it was a slow grind. Really, it was me and my buddy down the road. We grew up in a really small town, so he would say, I learned the Fade to Black solo, and I'd go, shit, okay, I got to learn the Fade to Black solo. It was that push-pull. I never took any classes. If you ask me, anything complex theory, I would just kind of look at you, and that would be that. And I kind of prefer that. I know that's such a cheap way. People will say, you're lazy, you didn't learn that stuff. But no, I never did. And I kind of like that I didn't learn it because, really guitar isn't as complicated as what some folks want it to be. I think a lot of folks put in a lot of work and they're like, okay, I put in this much work, so I've got to make it seem like this mountain. But hell, dude, you end up on a wrong note. You just bend that fucking note up 2 steps and it's the right note now. So everything's good to go. But really early on, just Kiss. My mother was really young when she had me, so I had all the hair metal records around. Later on, I branched out into harder metal and then went into just rock. And, I probably listen to I'm sure everybody in the band just rolls their eyes if I ever get the aux cord because I listen to a lot of stuff that is not metal at all when it comes to songwriter shit from the 70s and the 60s and all that stuff. I think I'm kind of dad when it comes to that, which is fine. But traditional guitar playing was centered around Slash, Ace Frehley, Steve Vai, Paul Gilbert, those folks. And then instead of just copying them, letting it just become me. Okay, what do I want to play though? I'm not just going to play the Paul Gilbert lick. I'm going to play whatever I'm feeling. And that's what's important to me with guitar playing is if someone's just ripping off licks and trying to look like somebody and it's so concentrated on being somebody else, you can feel that and you can hear that in the music. And I think it's so important to just throw that shit out the window and just be you.
No, that is important. That's why I said earlier is there's a lot of people that want to just sound or just stay in their own bubble. I listen to these same 5 bands, and that's the 5 bands that influenced me on the music that I write. And I'm like, that's cool, but sometimes you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone and make yourself listen to music you wouldn't normally listen to because you might hate the album. But then next time you pick up the guitar, there might have been a lick in that album that you start to play and then you build off of that and make it something completely different. But it now has influenced your newest song that ends up being a hit. There's influence in everything if we open our minds and are accepting enough to let it affect us. And one should. Now, you made me think when you started talking about Kiss. For some reason, I just had a flashback to Detroit Rock City movie. And I love that movie. And I haven't seen it in a few years, but you just for some reason made me think of that. And I'm like, there's a person on the side of the road hitchhiking. Should we pick him up? This is how horror movies start. This is also how porno movies start. I love that movie. Great movie. No, but that's awesome. And I mean, I want to jump, and I don't always go into each member and how they got started. In fact, a lot of times I don't, but I felt like I wanted to on this one. And Dusty, I would like to hear from you because TJ said earlier that he knew of you from a band that he was in, but it sounded like, and maybe I got this wrong, but it sounded like you were not doing vocals at that time, and then you started doing vocals, and as doing older style metal vocals and the higher pitch falsetto style singing and screaming, how did that all come about if you weren't originally a vocalist? I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, actually, yeah, vocals is what I started out doing. But with the clean singing and the high falsetto stuff didn't come till much later. I was in a band 2005 to about 2007. It was kind of your melodic death metal / metalcore kind of sound, like early Black Dahlia Murder. And with that being said, rest in peace, Trevor.
Absolutely.
We did that kind of stuff, and TJ was in more of a rock and roll. At the time I would have said it was a hair metal band, but he would probably have a differing opinion. He was playing in a rock and roll band. I was playing in a melodic death / hardcore band, and we just kind of had our little scene war, and it was awesome. I look back on it and I cherish it so much. But we would go back and forth. Airacobra would get on stage and we'd play. People would be moshing and singing along, and then you have TJ's crowd, which was more all chicks. It was just all chicks. He always had his hot ass chicks at his shows.
Okay, so Scarborough Affair. It wasn't Airacobra. It was Scarborough Affair.
It was Scarborough Affair. Oh yeah, this is not Airacobra. This is my first band. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is my band Scarborough Affair from when I was fresh out of high school. It was more like melodic death, and started doing honestly, like anybody else during 2007, we all just wanted to rip off Trevor, Black Dahlia Murder. So you want to do the lows and you want to do the highs, and that's when I learned my way around my throat. And then later on, we got with TJ, and TJ plays rock and roll. So I was like, man, I got to figure out. I know there's common ground somewhere, so I just started digesting anything that he wanted to show me, and just try to do the high falsetto stuff. And yeah, that's how it happened. Yeah, I started practicing, and we started getting somewhere. That was kind of drawn out. I apologize.
No, that's absolutely fine.
You're being modest, Dusty, because he opens his mouth and does this long-ass, beautiful Dio vibrato shit. And I actually sang in my old bands, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you just did that out of nowhere. I've been trying to sing like this for 10 years. And Dusty's like, oh, you mean and he just nails it. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that, do that. Yes. So he's being a little modest there.
Sometimes that's okay to be modest because he has someone like you to jump in and say, hey, listen, he needs more credit than that. No, I love it though. I love hearing how the three of you came together. And for folks listening out there, and I apologize, I should have said it a little bit earlier. The lineup of Airacobra is Dusty Raymer on vocals, who we have here tonight with us. We have TJ Walsh, the guitarist, we have here with us tonight. Zach Burke on drums with us tonight. The only one we are missing from the band is the bassist Nick Tuggle. So we are missing him this evening. But for you listening out there, that is the three gentlemen we have from the band that we have been, diving into this conversation with. I wanted to recap so everybody knew exactly who we were talking to. Now, Dusty, you made a very, very potent point, something I want to take a special moment here to talk about. One of my favorite bands of all time is the Black Dahlia Murder. And in fact, we actually talked about the Black Dahlia Murder pretty extensively, I think either last episode or the episode before that. And it absolutely breaks my heart to hear that, Trevor, the frontman of the Black Dahlia Murder, has passed away. Folks, if you haven't heard that and this is the first hearing it, I apologize for that shock if you are a longtime fan. I'm saddened for this in numerous ways. Not only have I been a longtime fan for, 15 years, but beyond that, they were very impactful into my guitar playing and music as a band. They were very impactful into my tastes in metal. And then I look at the fact that I haven't seen them again in years, though I have seen them several times, and I was extremely excited to see the Black Dahlia Murder with Parkway Drive and Hatebreed on May 10th, my birthday, at Stage AE here in Pittsburgh. So excited, waiting day and night. Like, oh man, I haven't been to a concert in 2 years. Oh, I have been to one. Don't get me wrong. I went to Slipknot and had great seats, so I can't say that. But I was very excited to see the show. I'm like, after 2 years, this is the show I really need to see. So fucking pumped. And then all of a sudden, they canceled it out of nowhere, and they didn't say why. North American Tour, Parkway Drive canceled. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then yesterday, I seen the announcement and was just floored, and I'm like, holy shit. I was hoping it was for something much, much simpler than that the tour was canceled. So rest in peace, Trevor. Very sorry to hear the news to the guys in the Black Dahlia Murder and to all the fans out there. Truly heartbreaking, truly an icon of metal, and his vocals, love or hate it, that was either your response. I remember me and my best friend loved metal when we were in high school. We listened to everybody. He always hated when I put the Black Dahlia Murder on because he loved the band. He couldn't stand the singing. And it's one of those things that he never liked the high-pitched singing. He was just a hater. And whenever he would get into certain screams, he's like, I can't get into that shit. And that, for me, is what made me like it. I'm like, I fucking love this shit. So it's just, you took me back there for a moment. I wanted to give a special interlude. So rest in peace to you, brother. Thank you for everything you've done for the metal world. And may you fly high. Now, absolutely. We have 3 songs this evening to jump into, and I think this would be a good time to jump into one of the 3 of them. So we'll let Dusty, I'll let you go since we were just talking to you a moment ago. Why don't you tell us, we have Nailed to the Thieves' Cross, Airacobra, and Midwestern Steel as the 3 songs that we can play. Which would you like to hear first?
Oh, well, you know what? I think Midwestern Steel's the anthem of the album. So if you would, that sounds good to me. Absolutely. Thanks for asking. And also thanks for the Trevor thing. That's fantastic. And I didn't even think about the way I brought that up out of nowhere, how that could, have somebody who wasn't aware of it. If they weren't aware of it, then they're living under a rock. But yeah.
Yeah, for anybody out there that might not have heard it in the last day or so, I mean, yeah, that could be a hell of a shocker and say, oh, wow,
yeah.
What? And like I said, it was like a couple days before my birthday that they're like, the tour's canceled, and I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Oh, that's right.
And you know what this really reminds me of before we jump into the song real quick is I was excited my whole life. I've seen pretty much every band I wanted to see, but one of the bands I hadn't seen was Soundgarden, and I really, really wanted to see Soundgarden. My wife and I had tickets to go see them. The day before I was supposed to see Soundgarden, Chris Cornell killed himself. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, you're kidding me. Finally, after 30 years, I'm going to get to see Soundgarden. Nope. That's kind of how I felt in this case. And it's not for my own, like, oh, woe is me. No, not at all. It was like, same thing with the Black Dahlia. I'm like, I haven't seen him in about 8 years, and man, I'm fucking ready. So pumped. And I've never seen Parkway Drive. It's one of the ones on my bucket list. And I was so pumped for the show. And then they canceled it. And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. And then I heard the news, and I was like, oh, wow. Like, how heartbreaking is that? Now I'm never going to get to it again. And even if they have a new vocalist, it'll never be the same. That's just one of those forces you can't really replace. You can, but you can't. Now, let's go ahead and jump into this. So, folks, if you're listening out there, then I want you to check out this song. This is called Midwestern Steel. And this is not only, a powerful track, but this is also the name of the new album as well. So after you listen to the song, I expect you to go find it on their website, and I expect you to buy it. So make sure you check it out. This is Midwestern Steel by Airacobra. We'll be right back after this on Uncovering the Underground.
The faceless ones, what you know.
And we are back on Uncovering the Underground radio show, and that song was Midwestern Steel by metal band Airacobra that we've been hanging out with for the last half an hour, getting to find out a little bit about them as individuals. We have 3 of the 4 members with us, the guitarist, the vocalist, and the drummer, and we have been, just like I said, finding out who they are as a band and how they came together as a band. And, I would like to jump into what was... And we'll go, Zach, I'm going to do this from a weird perspective. I'm going to go to the drummer on this one. What was the feel of this song when you guys were writing this self-titled track, or not self-titled, but album-titled track here, Midwestern Steel? What was the feel of the track? What was the feel of the album? What did you guys want to portray with this specific body of work?
Let's see, man. I don't really know. Like, I remember when I got the riff, the first riff from PJ, we were kind of discussing it and thinking blast beats, which I totally actually took the Cannibal Corpse thing with this, which I normally don't do, but we just went really extreme. And then when I heard a few of the riffs, I just went fucking thrash. I hope I can cuss. I'm sorry if I can't.
No, absolutely. Go in.
Okay, cool. So I just, went thrash in it. And to be honest, out of all the songs that we've done, it's been a kind of a stakeout song for me, at least, just how it hit me. I love thrash. I love, anything fast, and it just had that. But then, when the chorus comes in, it's so anthemic, and Dusty really nailed it. And it has a, really sort of, if I may say so, it reminds me at least, in the middle bridge is sort of Pantera-ish, with just like some dissonant guitar stuff. And for me, dude, this song rips. I was really excited when we were writing it. It's kind of a blur, to be honest. When we were writing it, it wasn't super conscious. It was just like we were all feeling it at the same time, and it just was super exciting. And then before you know it, we were done with it, and we were all really stoked with it.
It's crazy whenever you're writing, and I mean, you work so hard on the project, and it seems like it takes a lot of work, a lot of time, and it does. And then once it's all recorded, once it's finalized, artwork's done, it's finished, it's out. Then you sit back and you're like, damn, it's all over. Like, what happened to it? What happened to that project? It seems like it seems like it's gone by in minutes. So it's weird. It like does that transition from just brutal, painstaking work to, oh man, it's over. And then you got to start planning for the next one, and then you got to figure out how can you outdo yourself on the next one, which is always a problem.
Exactly.
So I look forward to certainly seeing what the next one will be, but I know you guys will have a challenge ahead of you to outdo this wonderful body of work. So thank you, obviously, for making this album. And for anybody listening out there, like I said, I expect either right now or after the show is over to make sure you go pick up a copy of the album and enjoy it, show your friends, show any other metal lover out there, and, make them listen to it. As we would say each and every episode, or we do say, you guys are the lifeblood of underground music. And by your support and love, that's what keeps each and every one of us going. So if you like what you're hearing, go drop a couple bucks and support these guys. It means more than you know. Now, so we talked about, how you guys got into it, the music together, how you guys kind of individually got into it. I want to jump into whether it be with this band or whether it be with another band from the past. Each of your, it doesn't necessarily have to be the wildest moments, but the moment that you guys will never forget from a show, just a single moment that you're like, as long as I live, I will never forget that for some reason or another. And I would like to go first myself and say that there was a show at a place called the Corner Pocket. It was a billiard hall where there was like 15 pool tables. People would come and play pool. There was like a concession stand towards the back where you could buy regular food and drinks. There was really no alcohol served there, but you could BYOB and bring your own bottle, bring your own beer. And it was a mixture of adults / a mixture of young teenagers all getting together, enjoying music, playing pool, drinking, and listening to great bands. And they had this tiny little stage. Now, we used to play there quite frequently. They had a lot of awesome death metal bands there. And I remember while on stage, my bassist did a guitar spin. And we were really getting into it, just really rocking out. We gave a very animated show. And he jumps up, does the swinging spin, and then throws his guitar to swing it around him. And as he did, he didn't have strap locks. I don't know why the hell you would do a guitar spin if you don't have strap locks on, but that's beside the point. So he does this mid-spin. This bass launches across the venue. I'm talking clearance. This baby's flying like an airplane. It went like a good 30 feet. And then just bounced on the ground, did like 4 somersaults, and then came to rest mid-show. We're all still rocking. No stopping whatsoever. He looks around like he doesn't know what to do. Fucked his guitar all up. Runs down there, picks it back up, runs back on stage, plugs it in, and we go right. I mean, we're still jamming, but he goes right back into it. And the whole crowd looked around like they'd never seen anything like that in their life, and I sure as hell hadn't. So that's one of those moments that'll stick with me forever. In the same show, we were rocking so hard that I threw my guitar backwards. Like I was jamming, and I just happened to throw my shoulder backwards while still holding my guitar and cracked my singer right in the face with the guitar and split his wig open. And kept playing. It was a good time. So broken guitar, fucking gashed open head on our singer. For some reason, this show was meant for failure, but we still came out, victorious. So that's one that I would throw out there for this specific episode. So why don't we start, TJ, with you? What is one memory of all the shows you've done that just stands out to you?
Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. I don't know. I think with Airacobra, one of my funny stories for sure is my mother, who never came to any shows ever. She just didn't necessarily like the style of music, but I convinced her probably 4 or 5 years ago to come to one of our shows. At this particular show, the guitar player, we were a 2-guitar band at this time, and the guitar player, who's still a great friend of the band, he decided that he was going full on this night, and he was gonna wear essentially like a thong with some thigh highs. So my mom is, I'm like, just come watch it. You'll enjoy it. It's music. It's rock and roll. Just, you used to love rock and roll. I'm giving her the whole pitch, and she's posted up. She misguesses what side of the stage I'm going to be on. So she goes to the other side of the stage where our buddy Harrison's going to be at. And Harrison was known to always have pedal board issues. I swear to God, I'd be like, I'm going to go buy you patch cables. No, I'll get it. And every damn show, his pedal board would sound like it was getting ready to take off into fucking space, and you'd hear clicks and clacks, and oh my God, it was so bad. So here we are. We all fucking come out. Dusty's carrying the incense burner. We're getting ready to go to fucking war, and Harrison's pedal board's acting up. And mind you, he's wearing like fucking thigh-high boots with like fishnets and like a thong underwear. And he bends down without bending at the knees right in front of my mom to fix his pedal board. And essentially his bare ass. And I'm like, the one fucking time she shows up.
That was it for her.
Like any other night, he's wearing tight black jeans, leather fucking studs, but he just decided to go rogue on us one night and like get a little bit like Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil era shit. And my mom is right fucking there in the front row. The one time I convinced her to come, and Harrison's essentially bare ass bending over, getting this pedal board situated. And that show actually went on to be a really fucking awesome show. But that's the one funny story that I can really point out that I think is great. And I really hope Harrison hears that so he can feel the embarrassment that I felt with my mother having to endure that.
That was her one and done. She's like, you know what, honey, thank you for inviting me. I won't be coming back, but thank you.
Just give me an LP from now on. Just give me the music. I'll listen to it. I'm never showing up again.
Yeah, I won't be making the next one, but I'll definitely buy the album.
Right. That's the one that came to mind. I hope somebody else has a better one. I hope I didn't embarrass Harrison terribly, but that's mine for sure.
No, I think that's a good one. Definitely something to remember. You're not going to forget that. I'm sure she certainly hasn't. So
I doubt it. Yeah. Shit.
Now, Dusty, how about you?
Oh man, I tell you what, that's probably number one. But in my memory too, without a doubt. I would say we played a show like any other band at American Legion Hall here in our local community, and we're all about the theatrics. We want to, paint you this very vivid picture of what we're all about. And I carried up a chalice of blood. I would say it was more than a chalice. It was probably like a freaking a flowering pot worth of blood. And there's a certain part of the song that we like to take sacrament. And I just flung it on the crowd. I thought I was going to fling it on the front row. Those people usually expect it. I mean, I'm not even kidding you. Every single person in the building got drenched in blood that night.
They didn't realize they went to a Guar show.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It was a Guar show for literally like 1 minute, and people weren't very pleased, but luckily it didn't hurt our reputation.
Didn't you have to buy a couple shirts?
What's that? Didn't
you have to buy people a couple shirts?
I think we gave away shirts that night. I think we gave away shirts, and then that's brilliant. Why have we not talked about that band practice?
Right, that's true.
Hey, we're going to ruin your clothes, and then in return, we will either give or sell you our merchandise to replace it.
Very Gene Simmons.
Before I jump into you, Zach, that reminds me, there was a guy I booked on a show. I've done a lot of booking over the years, booked hundreds of acts, and I both metal, death metal, hip hop, everything. I had this hip hop act, and he's known. I guess I didn't know this, but he's known to pretty much get banned from every place that he's ever played, and I can understand why. I had this guy on, and I'm kind of, you're working the show, but you're also like working the crowd, and you're taking care of, make sure the sound guy's on point. You're just kind of all avenues, so you can't see all things at all times. And I'm kind of watching him. It started out okay, and then I'm in the back, and someone comes up, and they're like, "Dude, what the fuck is this dude doing up there?" And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "You didn't see this?" And I'm like, "No, what?" They're like, "Get in the other room." I walk in, and he's like singing rapping this very violent song about killing his girl. Now, meanwhile, his girl is this little tiny goth chick, and he's strangling her on stage while he's rapping about strangling. But I'm not talking like he's pretending to. Like, no, he's choking this chick out, and that's what she does. She's like into it, so he's like literally like bear strangling her throat. And then, like, he's getting very vivid with it, and then she's like laying, like, I don't know if is she pretending to be passed out, or did he literally just put her out on the stage? Then he picks up a staple gun and just starts fucking blasting himself in the forehead with it. And blood just starts running from his forehead, and then he starts like sticking nails into his flesh, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? No one gave me a warning of this dude. And I didn't say much to him afterwards. I was like, that was something, bro. He's like, yeah, that's what I do, man. He's like, I go kind of in pretty hard on it. I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
Jesus
yeah.
Was that Steve-O?
Hey, you would think, right? And then the bar owner came up to me, and they're like, "Hey, man, you booked a lot of shows here, and we're usually pretty cool. We don't usually say anything." They're like, "Maybe don't have him back."
Like, what did they? Are they certified in bloodborne pathogens?
And I told the guy, I was like, "Yeah, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to book you again, brother. And I'm sorry." I was like, "You did a good job and everything." I'm like, "That was just a little bit much for here." And he's like, "Oh, don't worry. I already kind of expected it." He's like, "Every place I think I've ever played, I've been banned from." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a hell of an accolade, you know? Fuck yeah." Eventually, you're never going to be able to play anywhere. I think that's his point. He's like, eventually, I'm never going to be able to play again because I'm just not allowed to. So you just made me think of that, with the Chalice of Blood. So, Zach, why don't you tell us your favorite moment?
Well, Jesus, how am I supposed to fucking follow that up? But anyway, one of my favorite moments playing, we were playing the Full Terra Salt Festival in Southern Illinois, and we actually had a guy breathing fire on stage. And it was one of the first experiences that we have ever had of almost having sort of like a pyro moment. And it was so fucking cool. Just playing these awesome songs and seeing fire. And it was so cool. And, not to plug or whatever, but by the way, we are playing Full Terra Salt this year. So we'll be back. But yeah, that was one of my favorite moments on stage with these guys, for sure.
I think pyrotechnics are pretty cool if they can be done and be done right and be done,
Safely,
You have to be proper with it because you don't want some great white shit happening.
I was going to say James Hetfield, but Great White, of course, yes.
Yeah, you definitely don't. You don't want to burn down the entire club with your band in it and everybody else, because you don't usually see pyrotechnics inside a club. It's usually always on outside shows. Usually not too often. You're like, inside this club, we're definitely going to spit some fire.
Right. Like, where was the fire marshal on that day?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think he was like, oh, shit. Whoops. I did get that email about them going to do this show, and I somehow overlooked it.
No pyro.
But anyway, no, that's crazy, guys. That's some good moments, though. I mean, all very good fun times, and you can't beat it. So that's what I love about live shows. You just never know what you're going to get. No matter how many times you play, no matter how many places you played, how many times you played that specific place, there's always weird shit that happens. Whether you're on stage playing, whether you're just at the show itself, or if you're a booker. I know for me, when I used to book, all kinds of weird stuff would always happen. And it was like a love-hate relationship. You love booking bands, but sometimes you're like, why do I do this to myself?
Oh, yeah.
Because you have so many different minds trying to, you have 8 bands on a show, like you have an all-day festival or something like that, or you have 10 bands. And you're talking 40 to 50 individuals that all have to come together under one roof and all operate together, and everybody 50 different personalities trying to mingle, and it's just meant for chaos. So anybody that throws like a 3-day festival, I'm like, peh. And you're talking like professionals too, who have a little bit more of a complex in a lot of cases. I'm like, fuck that, I'm cool. I ain't doing any of that.
Especially artistic personalities too. You have 8 bands? That's 5 times 8. I mean, that many artistic personalities to deal with. That's
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's too much. You start getting real weird cats that like want really strange things. You get like Maynard, like on a big festival, and God knows what he's doing. We talked about Toll a couple episodes ago. We had Cthulhu Dreamt, great band, very different. And they give off a very, very Tool / Dream Theater / whole different thing going on. And we started talking about Maynard, and I said, he actually makes me feel weird when I watch him live, both as Tool and as a Perfect Circle. I mean, like, he's in the back, he's behind the drummer, like the drummer's in the front, he's in the back, and I'm like, that's fucking weird. It just kind of puts me in a weird place. And then he's like, just stands there and he doesn't move, and I don't know, he does something weird with his performances, and it's all very artistic. That's my point because of what you just said. And I'm like, yeah, you start to get minds like that all in one room, who knows what kind of weird shit's happening.
You're right there.
Yeah, Tool's a great band, but I think seeing him live once, one and done for me. Love Tool, but I'm cool. I'm good on that. So, I ask a lot of bands this question, and it's always interesting to see. And I usually ask it later in the show, but I'm going to ask it a little bit earlier tonight. If you had all the time back that you've ever spent in music, every moment practicing, rehearsing, recording, playing live, just every moment studying, all of it back right now, poof, to put into specifically one other passion of yours in life, whether you do it now or something you always wanted to do and didn't have the time for, but it has to be outside of music, what would it be? And we're going to go in reverse order. I'm going to start with you, Zach.
Man, let me think about that, actually. It's because all the things that I do outside of music are still music related, so it's kind of weird because, with drumming, I still play guitar, which it's still music related, production, so that's all I do. So it's actually kind of hard for me to answer. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's the point, Zach. I'm trying to put you on the spot, brother.
I know. Hey, man, I like golf occasionally. Is that cool?
You know what? Hey, there's nothing wrong with liking golf, except it's so damn expensive. I used to love golf, and now I just can't do it because a lot of the golf courses are like, oh, yeah, it's like $100 a round. I'm like, where am I going to come up with $100 to play golf?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do that. I just go to the courses and hit shots like Happy Gilmore, so it's okay.
That's fun, too. There's nothing wrong with the driving range. But, yeah, I mean, the prices, as everything in the world has gone up, especially recently in the last 2 years. But, I mean, I feel like the last time I went golfing, seriously, it was like $80 or something like that. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, $80 to go out and play a game with my friends? I'm like, I'm cool. I'll go play with sticks in my yard, brother. I'm cool in that.
Yeah. Maybe just like watching stand-up and podcasts, and then at that point, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that either. So what about you, TJ?
I don't know. That's a tough one as well. I've always been sort of a dreamer when it comes to stuff like that. That was the big rub when I was a kid, is like I didn't want to do anything that there was like a clear cut pathway to. So I don't know. I grew up playing hockey. Maybe I would have kept focusing on my skating and stuff, and I would have tried to break into minor pro hockey or something. I was never good enough to be like a big shot in the NHL, but maybe I would focus. I split it when I was a kid, like Dusty probably remembers. There was in high school, I was like playing hockey and guitar, and then I said, I think I'm just going to play guitar and we'll let this hockey thing just be a hobby. So maybe that would be it, but I honestly don't regret it a single fucking bit. So
no, both great sports. I mean, both of you named sports that if you did spend the proper amount of time in and you could get good at, there's a hell of a lot of money in both. I mean, you can make a lot of money if you make it semi-pro or pro. Golf, get out of here, man. If you can be an amazing golf player, you're set. Them dudes make bank. Yeah. It's a tough sport. People don't think about that, man. It might not be the physical, at least as hockey is. I mean, you're getting obviously crushed and beat up and your teeth knocked out. But golf is physical in the sense of you have to have your body be able to move the exact way you want it to at that exact time. And it seems so easy. He's just swinging a club. No. Every muscle in your body has to operate a specific way for a specific shot for a specific time. And, it's very mental. You have to be on top of your game. When it's in the middle of the sand trap, you got to know exactly how to get it out in one shot so you're not taking swing after swing. So, no, I'm a fan of golf, and I am a big fan of hockey. So, great answers. What about you, Dusty?
You know what? I just lit a cigar, so give me 1 second.
He says, I'm just smoking cigars. I don't even, if I didn't have music, I'm just smoking cigars all day.
No, I'll tell you what. Now we're getting personal. But before music, I'm obsessed with racing. Any type of racing, open wheel racing, closed wheel racing, dirt racing, asphalt racing. When I was a kid, me and my father, we dirt track raced go-karts. And it's really odd because you're asking music, anything. That's what I actually envy, people who know what they want to be early on in life, and it's something practical like a lawyer or a police officer. Like if that's you and you're listening right now, you are an enigma to me, because all of my fantasies throughout my entire life have been completely absurd. Yeah, but anyway, race car driver. I know it sounds crazy, but that's it right there.
No, I can see it. Not crazy at all, man. I think that'd be a hell of a rush each and every night. You know what I mean? Every time you go out, you're going to have adrenaline pumping to the max, and I mean, that's why they stick with it, because you're getting paid good, you're having fun, and it's just a hell of a rush. And I mean, can you imagine night after night feeling like you're bungee jumping off a bridge? You know what I mean? That's how you get whenever you're going to get behind that car and start flying, So
there's a Molly Crew song about that.
I think there is, yes. And, it's just funny because I love that question, because you get so many different answers. And I've joked about it. And I bust the one, I think it was a drummer of the one band. I bust his balls all the time because everybody throws out individual answers. And some people throw out real strange ones. You get everything from, I want to be a neurosurgeon, where you're like, oh shit, okay, cool. I would have loved to have been a teacher. I would have loved to travel the world. Okay, the things you normally hear. And then I have this one guy, he's like, well, I mean, and I've said this on other shows. Honestly, bro, I mean, if I had all the time back in the world that I spent, I would just put it into fingerboarding. I'm like, fingerboarding?
That's
He says,
awesome.
yeah, fingerboarding. And I'm like, fingerboarding like those little skateboards? He's like, absolutely like those little skateboards, brother. He's like, you know, it's a passion of mine, and I would spend so much time getting even better at it. And I thought he was busting my balls. At first, I kind of laughed.
I wish he was.
And then he kept a very serious tone, and I'm like, oh, he's not joking me. So I said to him, I'm like, you're being dead serious, aren't you? And his band's like, oh, bro. They're like, he goes to competitions and shit.
There are
He canceled band practice for this.
He's like, he goes like to other states and shit to enter competitions to fingerboard. And I'm like, I am questioning reality right now. And I'm like, and this is what you would do. And he says, no, I'm being dead serious. I want to be a professional fingerboarder. And I'm like, well, all right then.
You know what? You know what makes that a reality is freaking social media. He could if he wanted to.
Oh, fuck yeah. You could have your own channel. You're like, all right, guys, good evening. I am such, and you were about to watch me do tremendous tricks in fingerboarding. And he would get his million views, man. I mean, anything's possible now. You got like 16 different platforms. You got TikTok and Twitter and Snapchat and fucking all this other crazy shit that I'm not a part of. I recently made the announcement that I'm stepping away from Facebook myself. I've only had Facebook and Instagram. I don't get on anything else. And I actually gotten off of both of them. So other than promoting the radio show, I'm not even going to be on either of those. I just have no desire to want to be a part of other people's lives anymore.
Good for you. I'm with you, bud.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I pretty much announced, I was like, listen, my time will be spent specifically with my family and in ritual. That's it, other than work. Yeah, that's the only two things I'm going to do. So I can't have you guys all clouding me with like Johnny Depp trial and all kinds of other shit going on that I just don't want to hear about. I just want to go spend time with family and light some candles. So I'm glad you guys gave me some good answers on that one. Now, why don't you tell me, before we jump into the next song, which we're about to do in a moment, what is it that we can expect coming up from you guys? Obviously, you recently dropped the album, and obviously you got some shows coming up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the shows coming up and tell us a little bit about anything that we should know that you guys are, currently brewing and working on right now. And I will pick... We'll just keep going up and then back down. So we stopped with you, Dusty. We'll go start with you again.
Oh, yes. June 4th, we have our show with some recently acquired buddies, Vexing Hex. They are a fantastic cult ritual type metal band. That's going to be at the Night Shop in Bloomington. And I'm a one-track mind guy, so I'm just focused on preparing for that show.
I like it. No, so anybody that's going to be around June 4th in Bloomington, make sure you go check out Vetting Hex, you said?
It's actually Vexing Hex, and that's in Bloomington. I would also like to bring up Lava Born. They're also playing that show. And Leviticus.
Lava Born and I can't talk tonight. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. Every time I try to say something, I'm like, blah, 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 blah. So we have Vexing Hex, Leviticus, and...
Can I jump in?
Yeah, jump in.
Yeah, man. Okay, so in July the 29th, we're playing with Anvil in Milwaukee, which is a pretty fucking cool show that we got. And we do have full Terra Assault, but we haven't been confirmed for the actual date since it's a 3-day festival. We don't know which day we're playing, but we are playing it.
Well, you just heard some really good shows, guys. So if you're listening out there and you are in the vicinity of any of the three of them, or you are ready to travel, make it out to them. Go see these guys. See them, support the other bands, especially now that shows are happening again. I think it's worth the journey. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so normally you might be like, you know what? That's a 4.5 hour drive for me. Well, you know what? Drive that fucking 4.5 hours because you haven't been to any other show in the last 2 years, so you can make up for lost time. Drive the 4.5 hours, right. See the show, spend the night at the hotel, drive back the next day, make it a nice weekend or a nice just couple day trip. Enjoy yourself. Give yourself a treat. There's no excuses. Get out there. And I'm so excited to get back, into the field and see shows and be a part of shows. I don't so much perform anymore. I retired 2 years ago after many, many years of playing. And, it sounds weird to hear someone so young retire, but I mean, I played hundreds of shows. And I'm like, you know what? I'm taking time away to do the radio, to do other things that I do to help other bands. I've been on the other end. So now it's time to do this. But, I'm happy to be able to be out there interviewing people, to be happy to be out there just seeing guys like yourself do what you love and be a part of that atmosphere. And I'm just excited. So if you're in the area, guys, go out and check these 3 shows out, and support. Now, aside from the shows, what's next music-wise? You going to work on a new album, or are you going to take it slow and maybe just release a couple singles? What's the plan as far as upcoming music?
That's a TJ question. I hate to throw you on the spot, bud.
Oh, you're good. No, I mean, I think I'm pretty focused on trying to do some sort of tour on the album before we jump too heavy back into another album cycle. Maybe in the fall or something we do, some sort of a tour run, and then I'm always kind of collecting riffs and keeping it going. So I think we might drop a single or something, but I'm just excited to get back into writing mode after we have given this album its shake and write, like we were talking about earlier, write that sophomore effort, that follow-up, and see what we've got. I think the momentum's there, the creativity's there, everybody's firing right now. So it'll be exciting to see what we come up with next and what we can build off of.
I love seeing a band's, second album. And the reason that is that the first album, it's either going to be their best album, and that was like the brainchild of all of them together, and from there it goes different directions or grows in different ways. Sometimes their first one's great, but they really grow into themselves after the first one. So I always like to see the second album and see what that produces, because sometimes it's not that it's a letdown, but sometimes you hear an album and you're like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting to kind of go that direction, but maybe you like it. Or maybe it's the opposite, and you love the first album and you hear the second one and you're like, holy shit. So the second one really, I hate to say it, but the second album really defines a band, I think, in my mind. So I love this album, and I can't wait to see what you guys do on the next one. But it does bring us to a strong point of singles. I think we live in a world now where it's a little bit different than 15 years ago, where singles can be very advantageous if done properly by a band or artist. In between projects, you can get a huge amount of success off of one song. You can promote that song heavily beforehand, have an events page for it, really gain a lot of hype and market it properly. You can have it accompanied by a music video. You can have artwork for it specifically just as a single, and treat that single almost like an album drop, and get a lot of buzz from one song before the next album comes out. And I've seen people do it professionally as far as marketing, and see as much success from one song as they've seen from their own albums. And I'm like, wow, man, that's something. And that's become very, very impactful for people that know how to do it right. So I suggest to you guys, certainly, in between the albums, think about a really good way of marketing and dropping specific singles, and it could be very fruitful for you.
Oh yeah, dude. It's like, I think part of being a musician and wanting to be a working musician in this climate is just being able to adapt to how it's being done and the new ways of doing it. So yeah, I mean, with this album, even before we dropped a couple singles leading into it, I'm sure we'll do that this way too. But I think that's excellent advice for anybody to not focus on the archaic way of just like, I'm just going to make a 10-song album, we're going to put it out, and we're going to do this every year or something. I think that's super smart. So absolutely.
It is, because what happens, and I've seen that happen, is someone will work so hard for 2 years on an album. They drop the album, and then they go right into working really hard on the next album. And that's great, and I love albums myself, and I've released several over the years. But it's like, the problem with it is that I was seeing people legitly, and even myself, I would promote a single very properly, and then I would release an album, and they would be damn near comparable to the same buzz, because everybody cares the first week it comes out. They love it. They promote it. They share it, maybe the first few weeks. And then it fades. And I'm like, well, a 10-song album I dropped faded in a month. For the first month, people fucking were in love with it. And then it's like, okay, it's old news, on to the next one. We're consumers now. The very consumer-driven world now. We have to have the next thing, the next thing. It's like, I want it now. Well, then, okay, well, what if I just drop 3 singles instead of an album? What if I make 3 music videos? I get the same amount of buzz with half the amount of work. And I started thinking, wow, that's a crazy concept. And now I know artists that specifically don't even release albums. They only do singles. They drop a single, they promote it for a couple months. That's that one single. They drop another single, promote it for a couple months, and they do this every 2 months. So by the end of the year, they put out, anywhere from 6 to 8 songs, so an album worth of music almost, or getting close to it. And they consistently just do that going forward, and it works out very well for them. And I'm like, what a weird age we live in that is the case.
It's crazy too.
That's a very weird age. But like the thing that sucks about albums, kind of, I mean, there's so much to internalize at one point, and not everyone can do that right now. But the great thing about albums is that you have it in your hands, and it's intangible, and you have the artwork. What kind of stinks about single dropping every now and then is you have to find artwork for everything, and that's just costly. It's like more costly than just having one art for 10 songs rather than just one song, which I guess people that like singles don't necessarily get. But also it's a new age, so who knows what you're supposed to do. But I mean,
like in the Wild West,
we definitely tried to do the single thing, and we will probably still do that. It's not something we're against, obviously. We wanted to have an album so we could actually release a full-length record, that we are proud of, and we are very proud of it, and the album art is bitchin', and we love it. The new way things are going now, though, we definitely get and are okay with, it's just, we know the singles every now and then really are a good thing, just especially for people's attention spans now. But, it's just one of those things that we're trying to get used to,
No, it's weird too. We talk about the new way, but really it's kind of like the way it was in the 50s, where you weren't really buying Elvis albums, you were buying Elvis singles, and all of those old R&B acts and everything were dropping singles, and a lot of the times the records, the full lengths they put out were just compilations of all of those singles onto the record. So it's like the old is new again, and you're constantly chasing that. What's the quote unquote new way of doing it? I mean, you got the 15-second TikTok generation now. It's just, but like what's old is new in a way. And it's not completely unfathomable that people's attention span is 3.5 minutes. So that's what we tried to kind of straddle that line between giving the singles out, but also I think just all of us dudes being a little, we're not older, but we're in our 30s, so we wanted to have that tangible, to me, did you release an album? Okay, then you were a band. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a silly thing, but I think that's kind of like an archaic way once again of looking at it. But to me, it's like, okay, I released a fucking album. Like I did it. There's something to show for it.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I think that, it has its own downsides because you can do it in a way now that's not needed, but it isn't a bad thing to do it that way. And I like the fact, as you said, it's an accomplishment of self. It doesn't need to be accepted by anybody. When you hold that physical, tangible album in your hand, when you're looking at the artwork, when you're looking at the CD with the printing on it, when you're holding that beautiful piece of artistry in your hand and say, I did this.
Yep.
That means something. Whether it means anything to anybody else in the world doesn't mean a goddamn thing. It only matters if it means something to you in that moment, because it's a huge stepping stone for you to have that. Now, from that point, it depends on whether you want to have another one and another one and another one, or you want to say, well, we did it, now we move on to a different way and adapt to the times. I like to ride the border. I released a lot of singles, but I also released, I think 7 albums as a solo artist. And I was like, you know what? I still like the albums. I don't give a shit if people are buying them as much as they're buying singles. God damn it, you're getting a 16-song album. That's just the way it was.
It's so crazy, too. When you're a kid or, when you're younger, you hit on a good point there. It's like you're doing it for yourself, but you're also like, oh, I hope that everybody loves it. I think that it's so freeing as an artist and as a musician to just finally reach that point where it's like, I love this. This is what I believe in. And it's extra. And I mean, like, we love that people love this stuff. Don't get me wrong. But really, at the end of the day, just to speak to authenticity, like, I play music and play guitar because I love doing it. And like everything that comes with that is just the whipped cream on top of it. So, I mean, we love our fans and we love everybody that has loved the record and has given us great feedback. I love I love the reaction and people fucking hate it too. I think that's great because if you elicit a reaction one way or the other that's either positive or negative, it shows that art was valid in some way. And I mean, finally, the most freeing moment of my life really was just, you know, shrugging my shoulders and saying, I fucking like it, so let's do it. And then everything else opens up from that point, I feel like, as an artist. So if anybody out there is, you know, playing the chase the trend game, say fuck that. Just write what, you know, you want to write, and then eventually it's either going to come around, or you can, you know, at the end of all of it, you can wash your hands and say, I did exactly what the fuck I wanted to do. So that's kind of what we're all about.
Well, that brings
you
me to
you just got me pumped up, dude.
Well, you got me wanting to ask you a question, but before I do it, I'm going to jump into one of your guys' songs so we make sure we get all three of them aired tonight. But you brought up a very good point that goes along with a question that I sometimes will ask on the show. So before we jump into that, folks, and make sure you stick around for it, we're going to jump into one of the other two songs here. And if it's okay with you, gents, I would like to jump into Nailed to the Thieves' Cross.
Yes.
Well, you heard it, folks. This is Airacobra, Nailed to the Thieves' Cross on Uncovering the Underground. We'll be right back after this.
Between my eyes
And we are back on Uncovering the Underground. That was Nailed to the Thieves' Cross by Airacobra. We've been hanging out with these guys for the last hour and 15 minutes, and we've been discussing just a slew of different topics and questions, having fun. If you were just tuning in now, don't fret that you've missed that last hour. You can listen till the end live because you have no other option at that point. And then once it does end, it will give you the option to go ahead and stream it from the beginning or download it to your device for on the go. And I suggest you do that not only with this episode but our past episodes as well. Jump back. There is something for absolutely anyone that loves underground entertainment. From, acoustic artists to death metal to black metal to thrash metal to old school, legit, authentic metal like we have tonight. You get a little bit of a taste of everything. We've had models on the show. We've had hip-hop and rappers on the show. We have had pretty much everything you can think of on the show. We have a comedian coming up, and that'll be a first for me. I'm excited for having that on, a stand-up comedian. So, we just try to bring you what you guys want to see and what you guys want to hear. So, once again, that was Nailed to the Thieves' Cross by Airacobra. Love that song. And I have to say, Dusty, that makes my throat hurt. I listen to your guys' song, and this one specifically, I'm like, man, I'm listening to you hit those highs, and I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, God damn, my throat hurts right now. Like, I was a singer myself for a long time, whether it be, playing guitar and doing backup cleans and heavy metal bands, or it just be frontman doing different styles of vocals. Never was able to do the falsetto style. I don't know how you do it, man, but kudos to you for being able to do it.
I appreciate that. You know what? Those vocals in this band and doing the vocals in this band, I always like to give the comparison to driving an exotic car. I haven't driven an exotic car myself, but I did own a Cobra Mustang. So I always like to tell people that it's like driving a Ferrari or a high-powered vehicle. You can blow out those falsettos, but if you blow out too much of it, you're gonna overdo it, and then you can't do the other stuff. And that's what really frustrates me, because like in past bands, especially death metal bands and stuff like that, you could just growl your ass off and just do or at least I could growl my ass off and just do the fry vocals and stuff like that. But there's a real thin line of balance there with this group. If you go too hard one way, then you can't do the other one. If you go too hard that way, you can't do the other one. So I think it's been a learning experience, and this band's made me a better musician in the long run.
Well, that's what you want. You want to have a band of brothers that push each other to the limit to better themselves and to better themselves as a whole.
Exactly.
Without pushing them too hard to where they just don't like you. And I've talked about that many times on the shows. You want to be the force that's so good at what you do that your brothers want to be that good at what they do. You want to motivate your brothers to push themselves and be better than they are as well in multiple different facets. But you don't want to be the person that you're like, I fucking hate my guitar player. He's such a dick. But we make good music, so we just deal with it. You know what I mean? Now, I know you guys are laughing right now, so TJ, maybe you are a dick. I don't know. Probably so. But you know what I mean, and especially like we talk about touring, and I've talked to bands. You have to have you can be a local band and survive a long time and go out and do shows here and there out of state. What really makes or breaks a band, I believe, is the beauty of the tour. You are either going to tour together and become stronger, or you are going to tour together and be ripped apart because you end up finding out that the people you thought you liked, you don't like. And nothing will prove that more than being in close quarters with the same other 3 or 4 guys, or even more if you have like a driver and things like that. When you're crammed into a tiny little space on the road for thousands of miles and hundreds or thousands of hours, and you can't bath but every few days. You're eating junk food just to try to survive. When you go through that, that'll make or break a band. It makes you stronger, or you get back off a tour and you're like, that was one of the best times of my life and I'm never fucking doing it again. That sucked. It's kind of like that mixed emotion. So, it's good when you find that balance of people that you can really just be around.
Yeah, for sure, man.
No,
There's two of the members in the band have actually some tour experience, and we can't wait to do it in this group. Yeah, absolutely.
well, I hope that it is the glue that brings you guys even closer. I know you said that you're hoping for an upcoming tour on the new album, and I would love to see that. Hopefully it comes somewhere near me. I will be there. There's a lot of shows booked here in PA and my side of PA. It's just whether or not you guys are wanting to come that far.
Well, it seems like Ohio and you guys are the metal capitals. I mean, we're talking about Midwestern Steel all the time here, but I cannot ignore your guys' scenes.
We got
Ohio
killer scenes.
And you guys.
Yeah, Ohio's got several different really good scenes. Whether it's Columbus, whether it's Cincinnati or Cleveland. Cleveland certainly has a really nice scene. Pittsburgh has that's where I'm at. Is certainly a really nice scene. A lot of good venues here, whether it be Stage AE. You got the Craft House, which is a powerhouse that's popped up in the last several years. It's a brewery, and they just have fucking phenomenal shows all the time. And then you have there's Jurgles, which is another place here that has a lot of good shows. And I'm missing someone right now. For the life of me, can't think of who. But there's another venue that's really big here that constantly has shows. The Roxanne Theater, which has one of the best sound systems of any venue I've ever been in my life. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things that have popped up in the last several years where there was always venues here, but there's like 4 powerhouses that popped up within the last 6-7 years. And they're just bringing massive tours through, and that's why I said if you guys are over this way, hopefully you can get on something over here. Would love to see you guys live, but either way, I look forward to seeing the stories of the tour.
You know what? I'd say when we first started, I had a guy, and he was another, because the dynamic, the local dynamic. You have your rock stars, you have the guys who want to do it, but it's always on a local level. And another local, quote unquote, local star came up to me and was like, you guys are a fantastic live band. I looked at him like he was absolutely insane. I'm like, whoa, excuse me? He goes, yeah. Oh man, live, you're great. On recording, I'm like, excuse me?
You guys are awesome to watch. I just don't ever want to listen to you.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. I'm like, I couldn't fucking believe it. I was like, I just fucking, for the next 2 hours, just pacing. Everybody's having drinks and stuff, having a good time. I'm just like, what do you mean we're just a good live band? I was like, what?
That's funny.
Maybe he did it just to bust your balls, and he sat across the bar and watched you the whole night. He's like, look at this asshole over here pacing all night, get all mad.
Yeah, probably. I ruined his brand new shirt. You that threw blood on it.
Oh, that was the night you threw blood all over and had to give everybody free merch.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to jump into 2 last questions we got for you gents. The first one is going to go along with what we were talking about prior to that last song. And it's going to be, you said about just doing what's true to yourself. Now, I don't want you to feel that you have to stay with that answer for this specific question. We could treat this as all together something different. But the question is, if you had a choice between A and B, A being that you could write one absolute hit. I'm talking this hit would put you guys on the map. Everyone that follows metal right now on a fluid level would know who you guys are. They would be jamming this constantly. They would be buying endless merch and supporting and going out to see the tour just for this song. This would be your lifeblood and would set you guys financially and status-wise. But every other song that you put out afterwards, no matter how good you guys felt it was, everybody would think is a flop. So you pretty much in the end become a one-hit wonder with that massive hit. Or B, you put out back-to-back-to-back amazing songs that you guys feel are hits, but it just seems to fall on deaf ears and no one ever seems to discover it. No one ever seems to really pay it much mind. Like, yeah, it's all right. So as you were saying, we're good live, but we're not good on audio. It would be almost like that everywhere you go. Everywhere you play, people are like, these guys are, they're all right, but you guys feel you're amazing. Or you put out that one-hit wonder and everyone loves that song, but everything afterwards no one seems to care about. What do you pick? And we'll start with TJ. We'll start with you.
I don't know. It sounds like self-righteous to say, because I don't, when it comes to like I don't know. I'm really proud of everything we've done. I love everything that we've done. I would choose for sure to just write exactly whatever the fuck I wanted to write and just be happy with that. I mean, I would, let's go back to Kiss. I can't imagine being 72 years old and playing Rock and Roll All Night for the fucking 8,000th time and it just being punching the time clock on that. So, the other side is enticing, and I could be sold potentially, but I don't think so. I would just like to write the stuff that we write, and if it never turns out to that, then I can at least say like we did whatever the fuck we wanted to do. So I'm sticking with my answer.
No, I like it. No, that's what it's for. I like to see where people's mind is on that. There is no wrong answer. No, Zach, how about you?
You're going to hate me. What was the question? Because my headphones are being weird.
No, that's all right. So you either picked option A, which is you guys write a massive hit that would financially and status-wise set you guys forever. Everybody would always want to hear that song, come to your shows for that song, buy your merch. You guys would be set. But every other song that you release afterwards, everybody's like, these guys, play the other song. It's like Freebird syndrome. Play Freebird. It would be that everywhere you go, but you would always have that one song. Or option B, you guys write song after song after song that is the truest thing you guys could ever write for yourselves. You think it's hits, you love it, but everyone you play it for just thinks it's like falls on deaf ears. Every single person you play for is like, hey, you guys are okay.
Let's see. I mean, we definitely want to write for ourselves, but you want to hope for people liking it. So you never write songs and hoping that people will not like it, obviously. I mean, that's going to be exhausting. So hopefully you're doing stuff that you like. For me, I want to write stuff that we all dig that hopefully captures a crowd, right? So, if that's like, one day you write Enter Sandman and it's the best thing ever, but that's just one song in the bag for you and you don't think anything of it, that's cool. And then you have a big crowd. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's my answer. It's like it would be cool to have like a big one or a few big ones that people like, but it would be cool to have big songs people like that weren't written because you want people to like them. You just like them for yourselves, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. I get that. So kind of be true to you don't want to, necessarily write a hit to be a hit. You want to write something that's true to yourself, and somehow, unbeknownst to you guys, it becomes a hit.
I don't think Pantera wrote Far Beyond Driven to be the number one album in '94 or something. All the songs were heavy as shit, and they had a few bangers on there that just happened to be there at the time. And I really don't think they wrote 5 Minutes Alone or I'm Broken so they could be on the radio. I just think they were really feeling them at the time, and that's what I kind of feel like this band should do. Is like, let's just write songs that we like, and we all have interests that are similar, and I mean, who knows what will happen? Honestly, I mean, you never know, really.
No, I completely support and get that. What about you, Dusty? What do you pick out of A or B?
Oh, absolutely. Play for myself. When I get in the car to go do my daily grind, Airacobra is the first thing I put on. I think I am the biggest Airacobra fan out of anybody. I think I like narcissistically manipulate my guitar player and my drummer to play stuff that I want to play. And I would care less. And I think that's like this beautifully blissful thing that I can go to my grave with, that I can put on the Airacobra record and I could be like, fuck you and fuck you and fuck you and fuck you. This is my goddamn record and I love every goddamn second of every 30 seconds of it, every 30 minutes of it, every 30 minutes of the EPs. It's mine. I love it. It's my favorite band. Airacobra is my favorite band.
I love it, man. No, you have to have that type of passion for what you do. I always tell people, if you reach a point where you're not having fun anymore, if you reach a point where you don't have a love for what you're doing anymore, if you reach a point where you're not doing it for yourself and you're doing it for the fans, then you need to put down the mic, the guitar, the drumsticks, whatever it might be. I was a big advocate where I always said, and this was to be taken, someone that can understand the point, is fuck my fans. I don't care if they liked my music. Do I appreciate my fans? Yes. Am I honored that they love my music? Yes. But I don't write music for them. I write that shit for me, and it just so happens they love it. And that's opposite what a lot of people tell you. Oh, I love writing for my fans, and we do this for you. Well, that might be you, bro, but not me. I do this shit for me. And in the end, they love it. And that's just a bonus, as one of you guys said earlier. I do what's true to myself. I love what I do. I put it out there, and if no one else loves it, hey, that's okay. But it just so happens that more often than not, people love it. And then that's the extra sprinkles on the cake that you're saying, oh, shit, okay, they're digging what I'm digging. And that's the point of all of it. If you get to a point where that's not what you're doing or not how you're thinking, then I got to question your motives behind your music. So I certainly love what you guys had said for answers there. And then I'm going to throw a really strange question, and we're going to finish out. I'll let you guys tell us where we can check everything out from you guys, anything else you want to throw out there this evening, and we'll wrap up with your final song. But the last question, and I've been asking this all season, is my last question for the most part. It's kind of an obscure, fucked up question. It's another A and B choice. Would you rather? Would you rather, in the last moments of your life, knowing that you were about to die, have the option of spending it with your family and loved ones, being able to hold them, embrace them, hug them, kiss them, be as physical as you would like to be with your close family and friends, but you are not allowed to speak a single word to one another. It must remain in silence. Or, option B, you can tell them everything that you ever wanted to say to them, and they can say things to you back. You can have that audible connection to say any unsaid things that have happened in this life. But you're separated from a barrier where you see each other, you can speak to one another, but you absolutely cannot embrace one another. What do you pick? And I'm going to start out with you, Dusty.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Wow. I think I would choose the stereotypical Christian heaven answer and say that I could just live out eternity in perfect harmony and bliss with my family and loved ones. We're right here in the Bible Belt, kind of, not really, but, and we are. I don't personally identify as a Christian, but I've been brought up with Christian values, and I love rebelling against them, and that's my answer. Even I appreciate them, but at the same time, yeah, I would say perfect harmony, perfect bliss.
So we're going with option A then.
Yes, sir.
You're kind of embracing one another. Nothing needs to be said, and you'll finish out and ride out that last moment together. Now, how about you, TJ?
Well, I bet everybody would probably hope that I would pick embrace because I talk so fucking much. They probably just like, Jesus Christ, well, this guy shut the fuck up. No, I honestly, I think communication's key. I would definitely run my mouth until the very end, and never been a super overwhelmingly touchy dude. So just talk a bunch. I'm a talker. I know it might not seem like it. I mean, maybe it does. Maybe you're thinking the same thing, but
yeah, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this dude hasn't stopped since we started.
This guy won't shut the fuck up.
I'm just
but
playing.
For sure, I think I'm talking. I'm communicating with my family and loved ones and saying everything I need to say, and the barrier's fine with me.
No, I love that. That's why I like this question, because it's deep on different levels. Like, once again, there's no right or wrong in any of the questions that I ask. It's just I love to see the different mind frames that we are in, the different thought patterns, because it shows how diverse a band could even be. You usually have at least one member of the band that's going to be like, I'm saying every goddamn word I had to say before I go. And then usually the rest of the band, oftentimes, more often than not, it's like, oh, we would hug it out. And there's always that one guy. It's like, nope, I'm saying everything, and they're going to listen to all of it before we go. And TJ, that's you. Now, Zach, yep. you're the tiebreaker here. Which way we going?
You know what, dude? I might be the only guy that's not going that way. Only because with the people that I love, it's a small circle, and they all know what I think and what I have to say anyway, so there's nothing that's going to be a surprise. I'm pretty open to everyone. So, if I'm in that stage, like, I have to die or something, they usually know everything that I've had to say anyway, because I'm not just really keeping it in if they're close to me,
So you're going with A then. You're going to hug it out in the end and not have to need to say anything. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I mean, I've probably said everything I need to say to them aside from like "I love you" or something.
And I joked about it was one of the guys from Cthulhu Dreamt, and I said this on one of the last episodes. I said he took me for a loop when I asked that question because normally everybody's giving me an A or B, and that's the point. You're not really supposed to deviate from that. Well, this guy's like, listen, I'm just telling you straight up, fuck that question. He says, I'm not talking to him. I'm not hugging him. He says, me and my dog are going to go for a walk in the mountains. I'm like, it was just like such a random thing. He's like, I ain't hugging my family. I ain't talking to my family. Peace. I'm like, well, all right then, man. He just said, you know what, hell with my loved ones. I don't know. I don't want to see them in the end. I'm like, all right then. I don't know what that means, but okay. But hey, to each their own. Now, finishing this out, TJ, since you like to talk, we'll let you do it because I know that Dusty had you kind of say some of the things about the band earlier. So why don't we go with you as far as where we can check you out? Any last announcements and things you want to say before we close out for the evening?
Yeah, I mean the most basic way to get to any of our stuff is to go to Airacobraofficial.com. Got our link tree on there. There's merch on there, new t-shirts designs. Dusty does all of our t-shirt designs. We're going to be getting our record here within the month. Probably you'll be able to order that online, the LP vinyl. So that's going to be on there. We've got Instagram. We're going to be doing some fun promos on TikTok for the upcoming shows. So make sure that you watch that. I know we have Facebook. I don't have Facebook, but some mythical creature runs our Facebook. I don't know anything about it, but I know that we're on there. We don't have a Twitter because I feel like why would we? But I know somebody would probably say like, well, you should be on everything. Well, true, but if we're not tweeting every day, then what's the purpose really? And then any parting words? I don't know. I just say, if you're in a fucking band, always write for yourself. Always be sure that you're being authentic. That's what this whole record's about. That's what Midwestern Steel's about. It's just about being fucking you, being the force, being the change, man. Like that's what Midwestern Steel's about. That's what this band's about. Don't imitate anybody. Vicarious existence is a fucking waste of time. Like there's why would you want to be anybody else? Be you, put you out into the world. And that's kind of what this, what I'm about as a musician. And I think the band values follow that. And we're just about being authentically you, putting the middle finger in someone's face saying, fuck you. This is what we're fucking doing. And eventually people fall in. And if they don't, at the very end of the day, then you know that you did everything by your fucking meat there. We're never going to have a label tell us we need to write a pop song. We're never going to have anybody say these lyrics aren't the, don't be saying like this. Do it for you, and the rest of the shit follows in. And lastly, I don't know. Listen to Townes Van Zandt. I don't know.
Love you, CJ.
Well, you know what? No, I think you ended that perfectly because that'll go perfectly into your song. So as you said, be true to yourself. That's what the album's about, is being true to yourself, being, being just true. Yeah, I mean, that's really it, is just do what comes natural to you, do what you like, and it will fall into line if it's supposed to. And for those that don't fall into line with that, they weren't meant to be anyway, so that's okay. So we're going to jump here in a moment to the last song. Now, before we do so, folks, I would like you to check out our upcoming guests and our last few guests of the season. We have May 19th, The Fall of Me. May 26th, stand-up comedian Lauren Petrie. We have June 9th, the Renaissance Rock Orchestra coming on the show. And for the season finale of June 23rd, we will be doing something kind of special. Instead of having a regular specific guest or band on the show, I will be letting you folks out there call in and be a part of the show, or if there's certain people that just want to reach out and be a part of it, we're going to have kind of a session where there's multiple of us on the show and talking over great topics for the hour and a half. A little bit of a different kind of platform than normal to finish out season 2. So I want to thank all of you guys for your support and watching the show, spreading it and sharing it around. Once again, you can send me an email at celestialoddities@gmail.com. Again, that's celestialoddities@gmail.com with anything you want to see us do with the show or do differently. Message me at the Frater Crow personal Facebook page, Uncovering the Underground Radio group page, and check us out on any online streaming device. You can go back and watch all of the episodes, including this one, as soon as it ends on the live portion. Download it to your device, listen to it in your car, listen to it in, your iPod, whatever you guys use these days, do it. Support Airacobra, buy their new album, and, make sure you support them. That album is called Midwestern Steel. Make sure you go out to their show on June 4th, and the other shows, I don't remember the exact date, I just remember that one off the top of my head. Check out those shows, go on their website, you'll see it, and that's airacobraofficial.com. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for coming on this evening, letting me pick your brain, let me get to meet you guys, and certainly discuss some fun things.
Dude, thank you so much
thank you.
having us.
Oh, not a problem. Well, listen, I
Thank
certainly would love to have you guys on again down the road and revisit some things. Other than that, you have a wonderful night. Good luck with everything coming up. And, folks, we're going to finish out with a self-titled track about just being yourself. This is Airacobra by Airacobra, only on Uncovering the Underground. We'll catch you next time. Take care and have a good night.